Oh, yeah. Rocky Top. Yeah, play it. Play it. Kelly, cheer a little bit. Come on.
Yeah, no.
No.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not
Come
not Tony Basilio. I'm not a never
Wow.
being sorry.
You can do it, Cal. Come on, man.
No, I
do it,
can't.
brother.
What
I'm
did
sorry,
he do
man.
to
I'm just
deserve that cheap shot?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What did I do to deserve that cheap shot?
I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. I just had to show my feelings there. I just am not a UT guy. My bad.
Come on, man. Clubs won a Orange Bowl, went to the Sweet 16 in basketball, Women's College World Series in softball.
When I was growing,
LSU tonight. Come on, man. Vols
hey,
on
when
the
I was
roll now, Cal.
when I was
Room
growing
on the
up, Tony.
bandwagon here. Room on the wagon, brother.
Hey Tony, when I was growing up, now it was UT Alabama every year, and I couldn't stand. I lived right close to the Alabama border, so
Yeah.
you were either a UT or Alabama fan. I couldn't stand UT, but they were always good.
And they always lost that game. They always lost that game, Kelly.
Yeah.
That didn't go
And
too
then I
well.
can remember one year where they beat Bear Bryant, and I was really upset. I think I probably cried as a young kid.
1982.
That warms my heart, man. That warms my heart.
So, Tony, all kidding aside,
yeah,
Tennessee goes down 4-0 yesterday, really early. I was impressed with the stick-to-itiveness. That could have been a 9-1, and they roll out of there and head back to Knoxville. And instead, they got it done.
Chase Dolander, Billy Derrick texted me yesterday. Chase Dolander, they got him in the third inning, and they threw the young man in from Nashville, Chase Burns, who just shoved. I mean, as they say in baseball parlance, he just went out yesterday and balled out. Georgie gave up 2 hits in the final 6 innings in a relief role. And if Tony Vitello didn't go out there and get him, Tennessee wouldn't be there. And a lot of managers would not have had the guts to go get the first-round pick after 3 innings. I mean, that might be the last time we see Dolander in a Tennessee uniform. But Chase Burns yesterday was, he's just been lights out. I mean, look how big he is. Look at it. Look at that forearm right there. Good gosh. Anyway, he was letting it go yesterday. And he had a breaking ball yesterday we haven't seen. He almost debuted a new pitch. It was almost unfair. The kids from Stanford who have been to the College World Series 3 consecutive times, literally in the middle innings, just put their bats down. You could see their shoulders slump. You watch that sport enough, and you can see when another team's body language goes. And there's nothing worse than, and I played that sport, there's nothing worse than when you're facing somebody you can't hit as a team. Like everybody knows, we're not hitting this guy today. It's a bad feeling. Of course, I had that feeling all the time, but I would watch the better hitters in our lineup be able to hit, but nobody was going to solve him yesterday, George. Nobody.
It's a little bit like when they hand you the final exam, you open it up, you take a look, and you go, I got no chance.
Right.
And let me be honest. I majored in summer school.
I don't blame you. If you're a broadcasting person, chances are you're probably not the brightest or sharpest tool in the shed. Although I think you have like a science degree, don't you? Didn't I hear that somewhere?
Political science.
Okay. Well, that's a science.
I found the easiest stuff I could find. So let's get serious for just a minute. The College World Series, especially when you start out in the losers bracket, becomes a war of attrition of pitching arms.
Yep.
Kind of tell us, if Tennessee were to win tonight, then they've got to get by Wake Forest a couple of times.
Yep.
What do they have in the pitching tank?
A ton. Tennessee's advantage the entire time is and was, as they're built by Tony Vitello, to get in this tournament, and they can wind their way through this type of format because they can outlast people. The truth is tonight, while Tennessee has 9 solid choices, LSU has 2 guys that they can count on. They're going to throw They're both right-handers or left-handers, George. One is Coleman, the other one's Cooper, who threw a few pitches the other night. And truthfully, Tennessee has a huge edge. And then if they get to tomorrow, they could throw a Xander Seacrest out there, who was their midweek starter all year, did a really nice job for them. They could go back to Seth Halverson, who was a Friday night starter at Missouri. I mean, they have multiple, and I mean multiple pitching options, as many as 4 or 5 tomorrow that they could use. I mean, they have such a commanding edge tonight that, I mean, I had Ron Higgins on my daily show today, and Ron's with Tiger Details, but he's been down those parts for a long time. And his comment was that LSU's in big trouble because that's why LSU played last night's game with a real sense of urgency, the way they used all their frontline guys to try and get through Wake Forest. But it wasn't enough. And even at that, the deeper they went into their bullpen last night, it was diminishing returns. That will really be the case tonight. LSU better put 10 runs up. They better do something they haven't done or didn't do earlier in the year, and that's get to Drew Beam, another one of these mid-state stars who grew up playing football in high school, and his nickname in these parts is QB1. And George, Tennessee's got well, put it this way. Every game LSU's played so far in the postseason, they have been a huge favorite, including the first time these two teams played. When Paul Skeens is on the mound and you're facing him, and I know you're a baseball fan like I am, it's not fair. I mean, it's ridiculous how good he is. Tonight, and this will be the first time that LSU either goes off as a slight dog or just a slight favorite. These two teams in the betting markets right now are neck and neck, and that's the first time all year that's been the case with LSU. So there's a reason for that. Tennessee has an embarrassment of riches in their bullpen, just an embarrassment, and many arms to throw at LSU. And then tomorrow at Wake Forest. And then you can get back around after that. You can come back to perhaps Lindsey. Perhaps you could throw Dolander on short rest, who didn't exceed a pitching limit. I mean, there's multiple options that they can get by tonight and extend Wake Forest for a game.
You know this better than I do. Mm-hmm. Burns last night was unhittable. How long do they have to hold him? Is this a deal where he'll say to Vitalo tomorrow, I'm available if you need me?
No, because he exceeded a pitch limit. I'll look that up for you real quick, because I don't, the whole college baseball thing to me is kind of I don't know. Is it a new thing? I don't know what it is. But I received this earlier today, and I'll just read it to you because it's worth noting. Of course, I'm choking right now. It's worth noting that they try to protect these guys, and they have rules in place in terms of the number of pitches you can throw. I do believe that the number of pitches that he threw means he's got to sit at least 2 days and maybe to a third. Here it is. I'll share it with you if you have a second. The way it works is no college baseball pitcher can exceed 110 pitches per game. If that threshold is passed, then the pitcher has to be able to throw at least 3 more. He cannot throw for 3 more days. Also, if you pitch from 76 to 110, it's a 3-day pitch count or 3 days off. So he's in that window. So he's down for 3 days.
And Tony, you might as well call it the R.A. Dickey rule.
Right.
What was it? It was something like 182 pitches against Arizona State. I mean,
crazy.
Today, it'd be called cruel and inhumane.
Yeah. And there's a kid from Stanford, the kid Tennessee faced yesterday, threw 156, George, in their win against Texas. Imagine that in Major League Baseball. If a guy threw one, when we were kids, guys that go out there and finish games, we didn't even count pitches when I was a kid coming up watching baseball. It was understood if you were a starter and you got the ball, and you had good stuff, you'd finish the game. I mean, it didn't matter if you – but this kid threw 156. Yesterday, George, he had nothing left. Tennessee first pitch swung on him. They timed him. His changeup was not there yesterday because his other stuff wasn't good, and he couldn't fool anybody with his changeup. So everybody's human. You know, Dolander did the same thing. Dolander against Southern Miss got well over 100 in the heat and humidity, and yesterday he looked like there was not much left for him. So it's Tennessee's in a decent spot if they can get by this thing, George. They could really make it interesting against Wake Forest. They really could.
They sure are. Now, I'm going to give you some cannon fodder for tonight, and then I want you to tell me when you're on the air tonight, and then I'll turn it to Kelly.
Right.
In the last, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years, the highest pitch count that I can remember of a major league pitcher was David Cone, 161 in a game, and I think it was against Oakland, and he was never the same after that. Tony, in the last 5 years, I can't find anybody that's gotten to 130.
Friend of mine went to a no-hitter last year and 3 pitchers pitched. And he said it was the weirdest thing in the world. I mean, do you cheer that? Like when we were kids and a guy was throwing a no-hitter, you never took him out of the game. He would fight you. If a manager would have gone out there to the mound and gotten one of those guys back then, George, he would have punched him in the face. He said, "Get off my mound." Today, here's the ball. And hey, I get it. It's big money. Somebody asked me today, is it possible, before we were looking at the pitch count stuff, that they would let Paul Skeens throw tonight? And I said, absolutely not. There is no way Paul Skeens would ever take the mound knowing that he's the first pick in the draft. I mean, why would he? Why would he take a ball tonight? There's no way I'm doing that.
Not only that, they'd fly in from Pittsburgh and who knows.
Exactly.
God, can you imagine? So,
exactly.
Okay, the game's at 6 o'clock Nashville time, 7 o'clock where you are Eastern Standard, Eastern Daylight.
Right.
So what about afterwards?
So we've been on after each and every game. Yesterday I did a watch party, and then I did the post-game show, and then went upstairs and worked on my blog for a couple of hours and basically fell asleep on the couch. I didn't move. Extremely tiring. Tennessee's lost 3 or 4 to these guys, but these guys are out of pitching. And I have a feeling that we're going to have a celebratory post-game show tonight. If Vols win 2 here, this will tie the furthest they've ever gone in the College World Series, which, George, for a team that was left for dead at midseason, pretty good coaching job and pretty good feat by these guys to get this far. Really fun stuff.
Hard to argue that. By the way, Braves, Phillies, you need 2 out. You got to have 2 out of 3 against me.
Well, I'm playing for a wild card. Look, I let the good organizations win divisions. I'm worried about, the way I see the Braves is, George, the Braves are living in a house that I could never afford. So why would I even look at it? Now, when the playoffs come around, and that's the randomness of baseball, George, if I would have told you that my Phillies would have done that to you guys in the playoffs last year.
Oh, smoked us.
I mean, it makes no sense. And that's
and the
what
year
they've done
before,
to
the Braves
baseball.
weren't the best team when they won it all.
They turned it into a tournament sport.
Yeah.
It's the hottest and healthiest team.
Let's get to housing for a minute. Let's bring Kelly Holcomb up here.
Yes.
Okay. Kelly would be New York Yankees housing. Washington Nats.
Washington Nats, huh? It's pretty expensive up there too, George.
Me, Oakland A's.
Wow, he's got a possum.
That's hilarious. Funny. George, you need any more questions, man?
No,
you took 45 minutes.
You know what? Just do your thing.
Well, what I was going to ask is, obviously, you just talked about it, but Tony Vitello for this whole year, and we've talked about it before, he's made some unbelievable situational deals where he's picked the right guy, and you even said it with the Dolander kid. But the burning question I wanted to ask you was, when they got the Skeens kid coming, and they know he's going to pitch the first game, it just seemed to me like, Tony, that they went out there with the deal, and he's got them to where he's wanted them. Obviously, they won a game, and they got LSU again, which probably Skeens is not going to pitch. But the first game, it seemed just like they were, if they got a chance to get up on him, or if he wasn't pitching well, they were into it. But then when he started pitching well, it's like, yeah, we can't hit this guy. That's what it seemed like to me. Now, I don't know if that's the case. You're the UT guy. That's just what it felt like to me. Just watching the first of the game, it's like, yeah, we can't. I mean, he's really good. We can't hit him. Did it feel that way to you?
Well, did you ever play baseball?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. At my high school, we played a guy one time who was a high pick of the Yankees who ended up getting hurt. But I was used to facing high school pitching. And this son of a gun was, he wasn't this guy. But it was the velocity on the ball and the way it was moving, we had no chance. We knew we had no chance. And Tennessee the other night, that was kind of them. And Paul Skeens is that good. The problem with LSU is you can only throw him once every 4 days or every 5 days in the college game. And again, the guy threw like 124 pitches the other day. Kelly, 122. Pitch 122 was 101 miles an hour. Is that any good? I mean, this guy is either like Superman or he's taking some vitamins that I want.
Yeah.
Because that's unbelievable. I mean, that guy was getting stronger as the game was going along. Well, Tony Vitello told me last year when they were sort of chasing him around, I said, man, I heard this guy's name, blah, blah, off the air, off the record. He said, Tony, this guy's like from another planet. He said, this guy catches, can throw people out off his knees, hits long home runs. Like this guy can do anything he wants to do on a baseball field. It just so happens that he's of everything, he's just a pitcher. Tennessee had zero chance the other night. And I mean, probably less than zero of hitting that guy. Just wasn't going to happen.
I was listening to the guys on the broadcast the other night. Is he the best college pitcher you've seen? They talk about like he was over 140 something times in that game. So I don't know if I've ever, of course, I don't keep up with baseball like y'all do, but yeah. I've been watching it now, and just watching that guy, man, he's big, he's physical. He looks like a tight end, and he can throw it that hard. But has there ever been a kid? I mean, I guess you could look back at Roger Clemens or guys like that, but has there ever been somebody like him come along? George
is better at this than I am, but I was talking with a friend of mine who's in professional baseball. He's in Major League Baseball, but we're roughly the same age. He said that he coaches. He said that in his lifetime, Greg Swindell from Texas, Roger Clemens, Mark Pryor at USC, and this guy. He said, I put him in that category. In the modern era, he said, this dude right here is as good as they get. We can only talk about what we've seen, but for our era, I mean, you have no chance against the guy. None. And I'll say this for Tennessee. It's not like they've got some kind of super lineup anyway, but somehow they scratched out double-digit hits yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is as good as they're going to do. And truthfully, they scored 6 runs in a game, down 4-0 in the middle innings, and only had 1 extra base hit, 1 double. The rest of them were singles. It was all station to station, timely hitting. Don't try and do too much. It was a really solid win for them. And, the thing is, if they can get to Wake Forest, I cannot underscore this enough. To me, having a really good pitching staff is a lot like having a great defense in football. We tend to think of things in terms of offense in all our sports.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's why people don't like soccer, because there's not enough scoring in it. I happen to like soccer, but that's why people don't like it. But the truth is that you and I both know that the team with the best defense most times in football is going to win a game if you're okay at quarterback. Now, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win. But if you're okay at quarterback and you got a great defense, I'll bet on you.
Well, it used to be that way all the time, and now you see the Nick Sabans of the world understanding that, hey,
That's right.
we're gonna have to outscore people at
Nobody
some point. That's
defends.
why he's got those guys. So
That's true. Nobody defends anymore. That's true.
yeah, I mean it's crazy. And you watch some of his teams, and I don't know, but Chase Burns, that was another talk about the situational decisions that he's made. What kind of decision did he make of taking him from a starter to being like a mid reliever or a closer? That's kind of unbelievable what that kid did the other day.
Burns didn't like it either.
No,
And
I know.
I
remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I blame him, because he wasn't the only one not going well at the time, but his ERA was 13 in league play. 13.
Wow.
So something had to be done. Not only did they switch him, but they also plugged a guy in Friday night. They moved Dolander to Saturday night. They put Burns in the bullpen. And outside of one outing at South Carolina, Chase Burns coming out of that bullpen has been lights, and I mean lights out. And Kelly, his body language, the great Mark Griffin taught me all about the importance of, body language in sports and to watch it in athletes. And this guy's got it in spades. I mean, you put the ball in his hands and he wants the ball, and he doesn't want to be anywhere else but have that ball in his hands, on the pitching mound, game on the line. And somebody said something to me yesterday at our watch party that proved to be pretty prophetic, which was they brought him in at 4-0. And I was told, hey, watch if we can scratch a couple of runs across here and watch his body language. And sure enough, Kelly, when that score got kicked up to 4-4, when he took that mound, he was in like full alpha mode at that point, because those guys love getting engaged in competition. And I love guys that want to compete. I just think sometimes you can have world-class ability but not want to compete. And sometimes you can have the world-class ability and the want to compete. Those people are dangerous in any sport.
Well, his personality seems more like you see his personality. That's kind of like who he is. Like a starter reminds me of kind of like a quarterback. You have to stay calm. You have to stay cool when everything's going on around you. But a closer, just go into the bar, just start punching people. Like that's kind of how he seems. And it seems like he's comfortable when the game's going on and he's got an overall outlook of what the game is. And he can come in and, man, yesterday he was unbelievable.
And he fashions himself as a starter.
Yeah.
But, I think he has been, he's just been a revelation out of the bullpen. And if you look at that arm right there that you guys have up on the screen, I mean, that's a ripped up dude. Look at that guy. That does not look like a sophomore in college, 19-year-old kid. That's a guy you can tell. Look at that guy. He looks like a wrestler right there. That's a big old guy. That's a big guy I would not mess with. I'll tell you that. Look at
it. I used to have forearms like that, but not anymore, brother. It's that day's gone. So my last question is what's the key? What do you think the key is to the game today? What do they have to do? Just a different mindset going into the game. Obviously, they're not facing the number one pitcher going into it. So what's the key to this game?
Tennessee's got to, whoever LSU's starter is, they've got to get to that person early. There are two choices. Both guys are left-handers. Both guys aren't great. Today my LSU guest I had on, I said, instead of list the prospects for tonight, I said list the suspects for tonight for LSU's pitching staff. And he said that's exactly right. He said, because once you get past the first couple guys, it's a bunch of suspects in that bullpen. Tennessee's got to get to the suspects tonight. They do that, they're going to be in good shape.
Watch out for that Vandy transfer, Christian Little out of the pen, Tony.
Yeah, he's done a lot, man.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Yeah, he's lit it up, hasn't he?
No, it's funny. He's another guy out of the pen that we really haven't seen much of at all for LSU. I mean, they've got guys that haven't pitched in 2 or 3 months that they might have to play today. That's another aspect to this.
And you were texting me last night, and I wasn't selling for your text, but you were trying to tell me, the Vols were in good shape. See, he was trying to do a psyops on me. I know Billy.
A little double jinx
Billy was
there.
trying to play mind games with me. I know Billy.
No, they're in good shape right now, Tony, especially against Wake. I think they've got a real shot.
Well, you know what? Again, my guy at some pro ball was telling me this today because he's looking at it a little bit. He said it looks like the Southeastern Conference, like they do in football. They just play a different game. There's like a different class of player compared to the ACC because those ACC hitters all have great numbers. But when they go against Southeastern Conference pitching, they're not lighting it up like they were supposed to, are they?
No, they're certainly not.
So,
game. It just means more.
Yeah. The slogan ought to be, we just pay more. Like we did in the old days and like we do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Billy,
changed.
Has he offered you employment yet?
No, not yet. I'm waiting on what the money might be.
Why do you think?
George, I'll tell you this. That's a talented young man right there.
Oh, he is.
I think Billy's going to the Live Tour, George. He's taking the Live Tour.
Great line.
Billy, if you can get some of that Saudi money, let me know, brother. I'm all in. I'll sell out tomorrow.
I'll keep you posted.
Both of you. I'm in. Tony, thank you as always.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. It's a real blessing.
Great
guys.
stuff.
Have a great time.
Tony Basilio joining us from Knoxville. Big game tonight, and I think he's hit it perfect. Tennessee's got to get to LSU early, and if they get into that bullpen, it could be bombs away without Atlanta GA.